Hello, and welcome to another episode of Self Improvement for Women. I am your host, Hope Long, and today I am joined by Abby Skinner. She is an amazing young lady that I met in my own entrepreneurship journey, and she is a wellness coach. And this is all encompassing. This is everything from self care to time management, what you're eating, how you exercise, all of those things, right? Abby, I'm so glad you joined me today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So I'd love for you to kind of start off. I know you weren't always a wellness coach. You didn't just start that journey immediately. It developed, right? And your beginning stages of finding this passion within you started with blogging, right?
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that and your experience and how that transitioned.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been blogging for a couple of months now, and I started out just with the topics that you mentioned earlier. So I was writing about self-care. I was writing about exercise, how to work that into your daily routine. I was writing about eating habits and how to, improve your eating habits and your relationship with food. And it was a lot of fun to put that out there. And I felt like it was helpful, and I love writing. Like, I have a passion for writing. It really like fuels me, but I wanted to be able to make a bigger impact and take, what I was putting out there for people and teach them how to really implement it into their day to day. So it started with writing, and then I realized that I wanted to be able to help people on a more personal level and have a bigger impact. And so that's where the coaching came from.
That's awesome. That's so great. And a lot of entrepreneurs do this. They start off having a passion project and something that they really care about. And then it turns into, how can I help people do this? Like, how can I help more people? Right.
Mhm.
Amazing, amazing stuff. And so how's being an entrepreneur going for you? Do you love it or do you love it?
I love it. So it's great. It has its challenges, but they're fun challenges. I feel like every day is kind of something new. I'm learning something new every single day. There's just so much information out there. There's a ton of stuff to take in. But I think probably one of my favorite parts has been getting to meet so many women that are on this journey too, and at different stages of the journey. So I've met everyone from, those just starting out like me, and then those that have been doing it for 10, 15 years. So that's probably been one of my favorite parts, is getting to meet other people along the way.
Yeah. And you get to like really connect with your clients too,
Mhm.
doing this one-on-one wellness journey with them. I think a lot of times as women, we have a hard time sticking to like a fitness routine because we're busy. Like we're busy. Like we have stuff, like we have kids, we have husbands, we
Mhm.
have, soccer practice at 4. We have to be at our part-time job at 3:30. Like we've got this big family event happening that we didn't know we were going to cook for. Like all this stuff comes up and we're always so busy. And one of the things that you really specialize in is just doing those 5-minute things, those 6-minute things, because that is your time and everybody can have 5 minutes to do something, right?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So that's the key really, is a lot of people think, I've got to have 2 or 3 hours a day to be able to take care of myself, to be able to exercise, to be able to go to the gym. And that's just not true. So if you have 5 minutes in the morning where you can go outside and get a walk in, that's physical activity. You're moving your body. So if you've got 10 minutes in the evening after the kids have gone to bed, or you've wrapped up your work for the day, and you can turn on a yoga video on YouTube, then you can go through a 10-minute yoga video. And so it's definitely possible to work those things in. And that's what I like to help people understand is, you don't have to have 2 hours a day every day to go to the gym. You don't even have to go to the gym if that's not something you don't enjoy. If you'd rather do yoga or go for a walk or take a spin class, or whatever the case may be, those are things you can absolutely work into your day. The key is just, like everything else, learning how to prioritize it and where it fits into your schedule.
Yes, and prioritizing self-care is your jam, right?
Yeah.
um and I know, like, and I speak from experience, I am the person that constantly is like, I'm gonna wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm gonna start doing this at 7 o'clock. Like I'm gonna have my coffee and I'm gonna start my day at 7, and then 7:30 rolls around and I'm still in bed. And so I am one of those people. I'm not very good at really prioritizing myself. Like I get out of bed, and then by the time I get out of bed, I feel like, oh crap, well, I need to go ahead and start work. I don't have time to do this. And I know that that's not true. And I lie to myself, right? So what kind of way, like what are kind of the ways that we can start to prioritize?
Oh, yeah, that's such a good question. So, there are a couple of things, especially from what you just mentioned, that came up for me. So, knowing yourself, if you know that you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to get up at 6 and I'm going to do some yoga or whatever the case may be before I get started with my day, but you know that that's not actually true, then just accept that and don't try and force yourself to do something that you're not going to enjoy. So, when would be a better time for you to do those things? Is it do you feel like in the evening you've got an extra 10 to 15 minutes where you can do your yoga video or go for a walk or something like that, and it's not going to feel like you're having to force yourself into that habit? And then two, just prioritizing it and putting it on your calendar. So the big thing is that, when we put stuff on our calendar, we put it in our planner, or we, make our to-do list for the day, those things are probably going to get done because we've written them down, we've put them on the calendar, we've committed to them, right? But if you say, all right, I want to go for a walk, sometime tomorrow, what are the odds of that happening? Your day gets crazy. It's going to hit the back burner. You're going to run out of time in your day and go, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. So find that time in your day where it works for you and put it in your calendar, put it on your to-do list, put it in your planner. It's an appointment that you've made with yourself and you can't miss it. So those are two of the big things that I like to tell people when they say, like, I'm struggling to figure out where to fit this in my day, or I just don't have the time. It's really understanding, how to prioritize it and how to make it work within your day.
Yes. And something I learned recently too, like when we do give ourselves these larger than life expectations, like of ourselves, we're actually just letting ourselves down every day. And
Mm-hmm.
that is really bad for your overall mental well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's important that you have trust within yourself as a human being, and particularly women. We tend to say things like, yeah, I'm gonna start doing yoga at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then it doesn't come, and then at the end of the day we feel like a failure because
Mm-hmm.
we lied to ourselves again. And it just happens over and over and over again, and it really chips away at the trust factor within us. So we no longer trust ourselves to make an appointment and stick to it. We don't trust ourselves to take care of ourselves when we know we should. And
Mm-hmm.
so even if it's 5 minutes, put it in a time of day where you can commit and you know that it can happen. And over time, if you decide, oh, I do want to get up, I'm gonna try and get up at 7, it's much more likely that because you've rebuilt this trust with yourself, that you
Mm-hmm.
will get up at 7. But it's when you've chipped away at all that trust and not doing those things that take care of you, you can't produce the results that you expect from yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also like to say to start with, bite-sized pieces. So we as women, we tend to set big, audacious goals for ourselves and say, all right, I'm getting fit this week. This week, I'm cooking at home every single night. I'm going to the gym 5 days this week. I'm only drinking water. So we set all these giant goals for ourselves, and it's overwhelming, like immediately, right? So I like to say, pick a small goal and start with that. So just adding 5 minutes of activity per day is a great goal to start with. And think about, how are you going to feel if you say, all right, this week I'm working out five times this week, I'm cooking at home every single night, I'm only drinking water, and then the week rolls around and like on Tuesday, all of that's out the window. Versus if you say, all right, this week I'm going to cook at home one time, and I'm going to make sure that I get a 10-minute yoga session in on Tuesday. And then I'm going to do my best to drink mostly water. I know I still need my coffee, but I'm going to try to increase my water by, 8 ounces a day. How much more likely do you think you are to stick to those tiny little bite-sized goals, right? And then at the end of
Yeah.
the week, you go, wow, I've mostly been drinking water this week. On Tuesday night, we ate at home instead of going out like we usually do. And I felt so great after that yoga session that I did on Tuesday. I had a great week. So I think I can do the same thing next week. And you do that for a little bit and it just becomes habitual. So
Mhm.
after that, it's like, okay, I'm doing this on a regular basis. This is my routine. Maybe now I can eat at home twice this week, and I can do my yoga video twice, and maybe I can skip coffee tomorrow morning because after yoga I feel pretty good. So just taking it in bite-sized pieces and not trying to change everything all at once overnight is a big factor as well.
And we do this when we make New Year's resolutions, right?
Yep.
We're all guilty. So it's January, it's December 31st, and everybody's like, what's your resolution? And you're like, I'm gonna lose 20 pounds next year, and
Yes.
I'm gonna go to the gym twice a week. And then we buy the gym membership. And then when there's a statistic around this where within like 8 or 9 weeks, the gym membership doesn't matter anymore. You're just paying for it, but you're not going.
Yes.
And we tend to make up excuses like, oh well, it was really crowded, so I'm gonna go in June, or like whatever it may be, but we just never end up going because we
Right.
set this really high expectation that felt like a milestone, right, versus just a small goal. And I love that you do this with your clients because it's building those little small goals make a hell of a difference in 6 months time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, if you start in January and then you get to July and you have done like 5 minutes of activity every single day, you're like, holy shit, I can do a half hour of activity like 4 days a week. Like,
Yeah.
and you feel that confidence, you feel like a success. It's positive affirmation for you that you trust yourself, that you can do these things, and that you are healthy. Like, it makes you feel healthy.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
and so when we're prioritizing our self-care, and we're these busy women, I love that you said, it's adding 8 ounces of water. Like, that kind of stuff is going to make a huge difference, not just in you're feeling healthy, but it changes your skin. It changes, your dieting, like the way that you digest food. All that stuff has to do with water. So the overall well-being there is going to improve. And it's just one glass of water. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't do anything else this week, drink more water. That'd be my one tip. You can't do anything else this week, drink more water. You'd be surprised at how much better you would feel just from adding a little bit more water into your day.
Yes. And so let's talk a little bit about there's 3 ways that we can prioritize self-care as busy women, right? And we had talked about this the last time we spoke, and we want to go through those today. So the first one is setting boundaries. And this is a big one. I know I struggle with boundaries a lot. So let's dive into this.
Yeah, for sure. So I think when people hear the word boundaries, they're not exactly sure, what do you mean by setting boundaries? And there are a couple of different ways you can do this. And so it's not necessarily just setting boundaries with like friends or family, it's setting boundaries for yourself too. So it's protecting your time. So knowing like, gosh, I have a crazy day. Tomorrow's going to be absolutely nuts. Like it's insane. We're going all day long. We've got birthday parties, and we've got family events and all these things that, and I need to work in the business some and that kind of thing. So learning to protect your time and your boundaries, knowing your limits, like we all have our limits, so at some point in the day, there's got to be some time for you, because if you neglect that for too long, you're going to get to a point where you're burnt out, you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, and you're not going to be you just can't handle all of that all the time. I know we think we can, we're super women. But at a certain point, it's like, you've got to have some time for yourself. And when you do that, you'll realize, I'm actually more productive. I'm getting more done when I'm not trying to, burn the candle at both ends all the time. And I'm making some time for myself along the way. I actually feel better. I feel more energized. I'm less stressed. I'm less overwhelmed. I feel more productive. So, it's setting boundaries with friends and family members. If you've got a crazy hectic day and a friend calls and they're like, oh, I've had the worst day, I've got to vent to you. And I just don't have the emotional capacity to listen to this again today. It's okay to say like, hey, I totally understand and I really want to be there for you, but I've also had a really crazy day. Is it okay if we chat about this tomorrow when I'm in a better headspace and can really listen to you? Or, it's knowing that you've got a super hectic week and Friday you've built in some time for yourself, whether it's to go to the gym or go for that walk or, meditate or just have some quiet time, just 15 minutes of your own space. And someone calls and like, oh, I need this on you at this time Friday. And that's when you knew that you had built in time for yourself. It's being able to say, I'm not available at that time. And you don't have to make an excuse. You don't have to come up with some kind of reason, but it's just saying, I'm not available, and protecting that time for yourself. So I think that's huge. I think it's something we as women have a really hard time with because we don't want to say no and we want to do all the things for everyone, but it makes such a difference in your headspace and in what you're able to accomplish each day when you have a little bit of time for yourself. And if you can't do it every day to start, again, remember bite-sized pieces, like just building in, maybe Saturday morning is your time. The kids are asleep, your husband's still snoozing, and you wake up and, oh, I've got 20 minutes. I'm going to do my yoga video or go for a walk or work on my business or whatever it is that, energizes you and gives you some time and clears your headspace. So I think setting boundaries is huge, and it's something we struggle with, but something I want to help others figure out how that looks for them.
Yes. Like we do not have to please everybody all the time. And it is okay to take time to please yourself, right?
It is. Yes, absolutely.
So what are some techniques that we can use when we're prioritizing our self-care?
Yeah, so this goes back a little bit to what we talked about earlier. So prioritizing, putting it on your calendar. I know that is really hard to do. And oftentimes the people that need self-care the most are the ones that don't realize they need it the most. But just going ahead and looking at your calendar at the beginning of the week and say, hey, what is a good day for me this week to have some time to myself, and put it on the calendar. That is an appointment with yourself. You can't miss it. You wouldn't miss your kid's basketball game. You wouldn't miss your son's doctor's appointment. You wouldn't miss, a big important meeting with your boss. So learning to treat that time with yourself as treating it as much of a priority as it would be a big meeting with your boss, your kids' after school activity, your kids' doctor's appointment, that kind of thing. Put those on the same level. They are equally as important. So going ahead and making an appointment with yourself for working that routine into your, your weekly schedule. Again, if it's just one day a week to start for 10 minutes, that's totally fine. And I also would say figuring out, kind of what works for you. And I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but just finding an activity that, that is going to be something that helps you.
Yeah. So yes, this ties right into the third way, which is being open-minded when you're doing this self-care stuff and being open to trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
I know when we had talked about, I told you that I struggle with finding something and sticking to it for a really long time because it loses its luster. It loses its effect on me after so long, right? Especially entrepreneurs, we tend to be like ADHD a little bit, and we get really excited about stuff, and then we'll start doing the thing and it's really great. And then another idea will pop into our head and we take off and we run with that for a while, right? And the same thing applies to self-care. So yes, dive into this a little bit because I'm like the ADHD queen over here and like the million things going on.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's just where you're at in life. This certain thing worked for you for the time, and then you've shifted into another phase in life. So something else is going to work better for you. So, for me, exercise has been something that has consistently been a really key factor in self-care for me. But even that took a little while to find the style of exercise that I actually liked and I enjoyed and was something that I could easily work into my routine. So I tried running and I tried exercise classes and I tried Pilates and that kind of thing, and it never stuck. And the reason was because it wasn't really it didn't really bring me joy, and it wasn't something I actually genuinely looked forward to. So I would make myself do it just because I was like, oh, I need to do this thing, but I never really looked forward to it. I would feel okay afterwards, but I wouldn't feel fantastic. I wouldn't feel re-energized. I wouldn't feel like I had really gotten out of it what I wanted. So I kind of stumbled into weightlifting, and it took a little while to really build, habits around that. But once I did, I've been consistently weightlifting for about 10 years now. And afterwards, I just feel so energized. I feel like the stress just melts away. And so it's very easy now for me to work lifting into my weekly routine because it's like it's an appointment with myself. I'm not going to miss it. And I know how I'm going to feel afterwards. So there may be weeks where life is just crazy and I'm maybe only able to lift, 3 times that week, and that happens. But I know I'm going to at least consistently go 3 to 4 times in the week. So you've got to be open to, trying a few things out. And if the first thing you do doesn't stick, that's okay. And maybe it just isn't the right thing for you. And there's so many things out there that you can do. So, I would say think about what are some things that bring you joy. Does it make you really happy to just sit outside in nature? Can you sit and get lost in a book for 3 hours? Do you love to journal? Is there like a passion project that you want to start working on? So I would say just brainstorm a couple of those ideas and figure out, like what is something that really like I get really fired up when I do this. And I get really excited. And afterwards, I just feel so energized and I feel like I can move mountains and that kind of thing. And don't be afraid to experiment just a little bit. So if the first thing you try doesn't work out, if you go to the gym and you're like, I hate this, or you bought a new book and you're just not into it, but then you try journaling and you find like, wow, I can sit and journal for a while, and when I get done I just feel I feel like I've released emotions and I feel energized and I'm like ready to take on my day. Maybe journaling is your thing. And like you said, you kind of feel like you bounce around. That's okay. It's okay sometimes if you bounce around a little bit, maybe until you find the thing that fits for you, or if it's just, especially with entrepreneurship, there's a lot of cycles that we go through. So maybe the first thing you tried worked for a little while, and then now you're at a different phase in life where you need something else that's really going to meet your needs. So that's okay.
Yeah, being open-minded to change, because we are not
Mhm.
stagnant, right? We are ever
Right.
evolving, ever changing. And so that means like our interests and the things that bring us joy might change too. Like I know we had talked about this, like for a while I was on like this crochet like phase where I
Uh-huh.
bought like, and honestly, okay, it's a little crazy, but I bought like a whole tub of yarn. Like I was really ambitious about this project.
Right.
And I did it for like 3 or 4 months. And then finally, I was just kind of like, I don't really feel like crocheting. And then I was like, oh, I need something else like to plug in for self-care that makes me feel like relaxed and happy and like
Mhm.
chill. And so then I take on another like little hobby or a little passion project, or, you know, I got really into like learning about like neurolinguistics programming and like reading up on interesting stuff. Like that was a
Sure.
whole realm of hobby for me that I felt really good after I would like learn something. And I was like, oh, this was really nice. Like, this is so cool. I'm like, look at all this information I have,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it makes you feel fulfilled,
Mhm.
right? Fulfillment is a lot of, I think a lot of people struggle with feeling fulfilled because they've never felt fulfilled before. So they don't know what to expect or what it looks like.
Mhm.
Um, but trying those different things is going to bring that to you, because even if you don't connect, there's 100 million other things that you could just take up. Like
Yeah,
there's so
absolutely.
many options, so much out there, right?
For sure. I'll say even like with my exercise routine, I mean, I typically stick with weightlifting, but I've done even variations of that based on where I'm at in life. So, are things really hectic and crazy in life right now? Then I need shorter, quicker workouts I can do and be done in 30 minutes. Or, do I have more time and space available? I can spend more time in the gym. Then I'm okay with doing an hour to an hour and 15-minute long workout. So even if you find something that you really enjoy and really sticks to you, you may even find variations of it that kind of change and ebb and flow as life goes on.
Yeah. And I think the important thing too that I hear from you is don't cancel on yourself. I don't, you can cut down the time, sure, but do not cancel on yourself, because as
Yes.
soon as you start canceling on yourself, there it goes again. The whole self-care out the window. You feel like a failure. Now you need to like get back into this routine, and you're going to start with the big audacious goal, but we don't want to do that. It's the little goals. Just don't cancel on yourself. You
Yeah,
wouldn't cancel on your kid. You wouldn't cancel on like your husband. You wouldn't cancel on your mom. Don't cancel on yourself, right?
absolutely.
Yes, I get that. I get that. Abby, I'm so glad that you came on today. You guys, oh, do you mind? I'm going to go ahead and tell them. Abby has a lot of freebies that are on her website, and her website's here at the bottom for you guys, as well as her IG and how to connect with her. But she has amazing freebies, especially we talked about that calendar. She's got a daily planner. It's amazing. And you guys should totally go check it out. It's absolutely free. If you want to talk to Abby more about the self-care thing, about her coaching, about, maybe brainstorming ideas, having a discovery session with her, definitely reach out. She would be more than happy to talk to you.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm so glad that you came on today. Thank you so much. This was a very needed conversation.
Yes, my pleasure. It was a ton of fun.
All right, you guys, we will see you on the next one.